today's video is all about this look here using this palette here. So this is Makeup Addiction's Flaming Lip palette, and if you follow a lot of YouTubers or beauty bloggers or something on Instagram, then you probably have seen this palette. It is a gorgeous palette. There are 5 pressed pigments and then there's 3 matte shadows. Now the matte shadows are alright. However, these pressed pigments are the business. They are amazing and they're awesome. I mean, I would just buy it for just those 5. Very, very beautiful. So you've got the gold for some natural glam looks. Then you have this shade here, which is kind of like a pinky beige shimmer. Oh, there's some gold flecks in there too. And then you've got these 3 fun colors here. So I pretty much use all but these 2 for this look. I didn't use this one, I didn't use that one, but I use everything else for this look. So if you like to see how I achieved this look, please stay tuned. Thanks, friends.
Starting off, I'm using the MAC Pro Longwear Concealer in NC45 to prime my eyes. Moving into the palette, I am using the brown shade out of the palette, the reddish brown shade. And I'm using that pretty much from the crease up. And it's going to be like the transition color, covering the upper portion of the eye. Going back into the palette, and I'm pulling out the burnt red color, and that is going to go right into the crease. And I'm just using a petite crease brush there and just kind of packing that in and blending that out along the crease. And if it gets a little below the lid, it doesn't really matter. I'm going to cover the lid with a primer, another primer anyway. Going back into the palette, I am pulling out the brown matte shade out of the palette right there on the end. And then I'm going with another blending brush and kind of packing that on in the outer edge, kind of like almost like a wing is going like in a line back. So from the edge of the eye and kind of like pulling it back and then blending. Alright, so going back into the palette, I'm going to be using the purple shade. But what I'm doing first, I'm going to use the Makeup Forever palette, the Flash Color 12 palette. I'm going to use the white shade out of that palette, and I'm going to cover my entire lid with that, and then I'm going to pack on that purple shade. So that white is just going to allow that purple to pop. If I would have put maybe the black underneath it, it would have given it a slightly different variation to that shade. Alright, and then I'm also spraying my brush with a setting spray to kind of pack that in. I'm going back into the palette with that pink shade, and then I'm going to start from the inner tear duct and kind of work my way to the first quarter of that lid. And just spreading that out there. Alright, going back into the palette, then I am basically going to go underneath the eye. So I started with that brown shade, which is the first shade that we used. And then I'm going back into the Makeup Forever 12 Color Flash palette. I'm going to use that white shade again, and that is going to line my waterline. And so I'm just using a angled eyeliner, just the tip, and kind of spreading that out. Then I'm going back into that same palette, and I'm going to use a coral shade. So I'm using the Makeup Forever 12 Color Flash palette, and then I'm taking that cream, coral cream, and then I am going to go underneath the eye and kind of like just pretty much all over the entire, underneath the lash line there. And then I'm going to go back in a moment and add a color on top of that to give it a pop. So just using the NYC liquid liner, shaping up that line. Because Lord knows it doesn't go on perfect all the time. So I'm going back into the palette. I'm using that pink shade that I used for the inner corner of the eye, and then I am packing that on top of the cream coral. So I'm just going along that line. Instead of using like a liner, you don't have to have a liner because, you know, with certain shades that you want to get, you would end up buying lots of product. So I'm just found that it is so much easier for me to use the Flash Color, the Makeup Forever Flash Color 12 palette as a cream. And then I can add on the eyeshadow and kind of pack that on to that line that I create, which minimizes the product. So love, love, love that. So using the Benefit They're Real mascara. And try not to poke myself in the eye. Alright, and so right now I'm just touching up my face. I am using the Tarte Park Avenue bronzer. Tarte Park Avenue Princess bronzer, I'm sorry. And then to highlight, I'm using the Balm Cindy Lou-manizer. And on top of that, I'll be using Mary Lou. So the Cindy Lou-manizer, for my skin tone, it's sort of a highlight. It is a pink shimmer, which could be used as a blush on really lighter skin tones, but for me, it's like a highlight. And so I'm going to use that on my brow bone. I'm going to use that in the inner tear duct and kind of blend that out, just to give the inner eyes a pop, since this is such bold color. Going back into the palette, and then not the palette, excuse me, I'm using the Balm Mary Lou-manizer now. And so I'm going right above the Cindy Lou with that. And then, of course, just going to put that in certain angles. Alright, into the lips, I'm using the ColourPop Brink lip pencil. And then I decided that wasn't dark enough, so I went back and grabbed the Grunge. And I'm just using that for the edges, which they are both, seem to be a little bit lighter than the actual liquid lipstick that I'm using, the teeny tiny. But, you know, whatever, it works. So this is it for the video. I'm sorry it's abruptly stopped, but thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Bye.